Hey, what's up? It's your boy Bobby Sapphire, and it is another episode of KTOD Radio. This is episode 11. That's nuts, Justin. Did you think we would get here?
I didn't necessarily doubt it. Um, Shout out to the Boston Celtics, part of the old Decipher Kashuk region for being champions. I've got my shirt that shows I'm not a bandwagon jumper, a Kevin McHale. It's a little snug,
Ooh.
but and I've got the champ gear just like Tatum.
Yeah, that's sweet. I did possess that McHale jersey for about 17 years, so I can't attest.
Yes, and Joe Mazzulla on Thursday joined the Discord, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, he knew KTOD,
gamer.
KTOD Patreon sub.
Welcome, Joe.
And then new initiate to the Pokemon World Tour, Maddie Gem.
Yo, what's up, boys? Yeah, been using Pokemon as a little break so I didn't burn out from Star Wars Unlimited, but when the full set drops, I'm excited to get into it. Speaking of the number 11, I made this ball as a toll collector, this rubber band ball, 11 years ago, and I found it recently, and so I'll be playing with it throughout the episode.
Nice. Shout out to me and Maddie being toll collectors back in the day.
Yeah, so many rubber bands. You had to do something with them.
And then Stevie Getz looking very Vin Diesel down there in that tank, shaved
what up?
head.
We got Envy. Muscle
Man,
Envy.
it's so hot these days. I got no AC. Like, just trying to stay alive.
Yeah, I'm full on Winnie the Poohing right now. I have nothing on below this shirt. So
That's hot.
We're getting ready for the calendar shoot as well.
yeah, that's right. We got
So
3
similar-
months each.
similar
Patreon
outfit.
tier.
Gonna be great.
Similar up.
All right, so today we're going to talk about being in full set 2 mode. We're all kind of like getting over that in-between period. Maddie's been playing Pokemon. I've been playing TFT. I'm sure Steve's been playing TFT. Justin's been following the
gym.
Celtics, hitting the gym, getting swole. We're going to talk briefly. I guess like now is the best time to talk about this, but we launched a coaching tier. We released a video. If you listened to this podcast but didn't think that coaching video would be worth your while, we did spend about 10 minutes talking about the benefits of coaching to make that episode something that people would want to watch. Our coaching tier is currently sold out, but keep an eye on expansion in the future.
Yeah, very exciting, and really excited to partner with Reflex.
Yep.
Definitely one of the top players. Really methodical the way he thinks and professional about the way he goes about his business. So excited to be part of it in a way, and looking to see where it blossoms in the future too.
Yeah, and he's been showing
Yeah.
up at tournaments too. Like, there's no doubt about it. He's going to
no doubt.
events and he's placing. So
Placing,
He's won a
does well in
1K.
other games.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, and
his
our
pedigree,
message-
and like is a coach. Like,
yeah, as a professional coach. So
yeah,
he
like
just,
it's perfect. It's a great,
just-
great to have him on for that.
He'll come back on a Sunday and be like, "Yeah, I went 8-0, 16-0. Listen to you guys, it was solid.
Yeah.
The list you guys sent was good. Oh, won another one. He's a owner of like 9 maces that are champions, so like
Yeah.
Yeah.
36 maces.
You'll love to see it.
Pretty good stuff.
All right. Well, with that, let's talk about pre-releases. I'm pretty hyped. I'm going to 2. What about you guys?
I got
Really?
one on the books.
Okay.
I got one.
It's tough around the 4th of July weekend. Like,
That's
Yeah.
brutal. What a
I'm
terrible
going on a
weekend to do it.
Tuesday one after. Yeah, I'm doing Tuesday after. I might pick up one if like I can get away and there's a spot open because ours are capped. But I'm cool at one because I think that we're gonna actually save packs this time to like draft and play sealed and
Yeah,
stuff.
we learned our lesson for sure.
Yeah, I'm not opening 9 boxes in the back of a car ever again.
No,
I
that
might
sounds
sign
simple.
up and then just drop and bring the pre-release kit back so we can stream something.
Okay. Some stores actually will just sell you those too.
Oh, will they?
Yeah.
That's dope.
But yeah, I think it'll go a little smoother this time. People were learning the game. I think there won't be as many new initiatives, although that I did not say that word right. I was at Great Stories today, and some dude bought the starter decks to play with his nephew. So like people are still finding the game, which is super cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I told him the Vader one was the one to play, so he could crush his nephew.
Nice.
Nice.
And the other thing to keep in mind is like organized play still not even announced. Like we
Yeah.
still don't even know what that's going to entail. We're really hoping that we find that out at Gen Con and we can broadcast it live from Gen Con and sort of like do vlogs because we're all going to Gen Con now. In fact, the
Yeah, I think
entire 8-man tournament testing team are going.
Yeah, it's pretty
I think
freaking
it's
awesome.
I think it's needed that they at Gen Con that there's definitely some like promotional things from FFG about what the fall is going to look like. With 2 sets under your belt, and a lot of stores and organizations, especially like the London organization, like putting on those majors and sort of mini pro
Yeah.
events before it even started. Like, all right, that's great, and like people are sort of doing the work for you in a sense. So now, what do we actually what's it going to look like for organized play, because they've said that was coming. So hopefully,
Yeah, and I hope it brings people either fully in or helps people discover the game. But I'm looking forward to it too. I'm looking forward to Gen Con in general. But so yeah, sorry, Steve, what'd you say?
I was just saying, yeah, Gen Con's gonna be dope. Got the loft.
We got the loft, the industrial loft. So one of the things I thought we could talk about today was just pre-releases, because this is our final episode until pre-release weekend. And just sort of like, now that all the leaders are spoiled today, which leaders would we actually consider using in limited specifically for the pre-releases? And just spend a couple minutes on each color. So looking at these blue leaders, are there any that you'd be happy to open in your pre-release and play?
I definitely think Ray would be my hypothetical pick one here. I think Finn and Gar Saxon have the potential to be blowouts, but you're going to have to get the right packs. I do think if this was a draft format, I would probably lean more heavily towards Finn or Gar, because that way in the draft you can actually make a conscious effort to build your deck around upgrades. And then in that situation, I think they would probably trump him.
And I think one thing we've seen, at least in, I think some of the best things with Gar we found are set 1 stuff. So I'd have to really look at the set and make sure there's enough things that already come into play, shielded or whatever, to utilize them.
Yeah, so I think Ray looks pretty good.
Yeah,
Ray looks pretty good. You're not always you don't always have the perfect curve.
Yeah, exactly.
In limited, so you're able to use her ability probably a little better, and you could actually draft, pick her and then take a lot of low drops, and you're always getting value out of them because you're underdropping with some value.
Yeah, she wears equipment well. She's got a big booty. Restore is no joke.
Yeah, the Restore 3 is going to be pretty serious in a pre-release. What about Kira? Kira healing all the damage from each unit and dealing half. Those pre-release games can be kind of a slog, and you end up with a bunch of units out. She could seriously.
There's also a lot of grit.
Yeah, there's a lot of grit too.
But for me, she seems like she's going to be a tricky one to play and very situational, and that's just going to make my head work for a pre-release.
Yeah, I would say Ray probably the easiest, and maybe Gar Saxon the second easiest. They're both also the 2 commons. Kira and Finn are both rare, so much more likely that we see Ray if we see a blue pilot, I think. I would imagine that if people are playing blue at the pre-release, most people will be on Ray.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to if there's for Premier, in my opinion, Kira's incredibly powerful, and the other ones, Gar's a little bit of, I think he's got some potential, but Kira's just head and shoulders above the other ones. And then you look at how in limited, in draft or sealed, those rates are just kind of flipped. So it's cool that the formats are so different. Obviously they're different, but it's cool that it's not okay, the best leader in Premier is also the best leader in limited.
Kind of like it happened a little bit set 1 with Boba, right? Early draft, it was you wanted Boba, and then he was also in Premier. So I think mixing it up and seeing these other leaders be more prominent, it's just kind of more refreshing.
Cool. All right, let's take a look at red. I think all of these are really good. I think I'd be pretty excited to open any of these. I think Bo-Katan may be the most difficult because she actually requires you to use Mandalorian, which could be something that isn't as ubiquitous in the set as Underworld. With maybe Boss coming in right behind, you have to make sure that you also open some bounties. But our opponents could just play characters with units with bounties on them, so you might even still see value in playing a 4/6/5 drop. But I think all of these would be good. I'd be happy to do any of them.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, I think if you get the Mandos, I think Bo is insane. We've seen it in Premier, she can be really good with just a little bit of support. So I think you should get enough Mandos. I mean, you'd have to have if your pool is really Mando light, no thanks. But in draft or a significant amount of Mandos, I'd play Bo.
I just think with a sealed pool, you just never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
I was really interested in just not even ever flipping him, just using his ability just to be a +2 over and over again. Kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that idea. And then late game, you run out of cards, then he just becomes a 5. Han and Bosk are the 2 common. out of this cycle.
Right.
So,
Okay. So yeah.
I would say like Han makes it easy to play, like any bomb you open,
Yeah,
even
right.
if it's
Out
off
of
color.
aspect,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're just like paying a little bit less for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind
The
of
out
cool.
of
It's like opening a
aspect
land.
angle, really interesting, man.
It's huge, yeah, because it like paying 1 is not that big a deal. You're already gonna pay 2
Yeah.
for stuff in limited.
He's like in Magic Draft, like picking like a mana fixer pack one,
Right.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
like
basically.
drafting 5 color kind of.
Like it's not the same set or whatever, but like imagine only having to pay like 9 for a palp in limited. Like I would do that out of aspect. That's completely reasonable.
Yeah, same with like Snoke. I
Yeah.
guess Snoke is double, but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
Yeah, Snoke would be really high.
Could have like a blue.
Well, I guess
blue
yeah, you could
base.
have blue base.
It could be blue, huh? Yeah, true.
Cool. All right, yellow.
Oof.
Yeah,
Cad.
this is tough. Cad seems like the safest and the easiest. He is also the common. Him and Fennec are the commons here. I'd say Afra probably one of the worst, just because like you really can't capitalize on the milling yourself plan, and you only have 30 card decks. So like, I don't know, long sloggy games of limited and unlimited. I've definitely come close to milling myself. I think I've even taken damage.
Could go more.
Yeah.
I mean,
the
there's
last
no-
pre-release
That's true,
I
you could do
won
more.
With no cards in my deck on one of my matches.
I mean, having an extra card's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and if you can build it right, and she's coming out on 5 as a 5/5, that's nothing to shake a stick at either. So, I guess it would depend on the power level of your pool and if you were able to play more cards. But I think Cad is the safest by far.
Yeah.
I don't hate Fennec there, but
It's just her ability costing 1 to do the ambush can be a little annoying, and her body, the 4/4
Once it
Sab
comes
is
out,
like
yeah.
is also kind of just easy to
Right.
kill. I
Yeah.
think the cat, like with just comparing these and seeing Cad with the 8 booty, and
Yeah.
and making opponents start doing their damage, like you're just winning a value war, which is like a lot of times what sealed is.
Limited,
It's just like
yeah.
a big attrition value war.
Yeah, 4/8 is big.
Yeah. Steven, anything to add, or are you kind of in the same boat?
No, I'm good. I mean, it's pretty. You guys kind of hit all the head on nail on whatever the expression is. I don't think
We're not carpenters. We don't know.
because I actually had a draft double yellow in the draft I did this past week, and I very rarely have actually never have drafted yellow before that. And I think if I don't have CAD, I don't even think I'd want to be in yellow. With
Looking at the other leaders.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like
Which is
avoid
interesting because like yellow seems insane, so like you're kind of hoping to like spike one of those other and then yellow base. It seems like.
Yeah, I guess none of the leaders really like play into a bounty hunter theme, like sub theme, which like you can build with your pool if you have it. Because we're gonna see, or we've already talked about some very strong common and uncommon bounty hunters like Zuckus, Forlom, Toro, or like none of them are rare. So like it's pretty reasonable to end up with a bunch of those things and wanting to be yellow. But yeah, if you're not Cat, or maybe we just need to see Afra on the table and see if that one card that she gets you back is worth to try and go that
The
route.
Lando could be kind of interesting, just in terms of your analogy of it's generally always an attrition war. Like being able to have those extra resources could definitely come into play, but it just feels like smuggle in general is not going to be as strong as I initially thought.
Yeah, and I can see in draft, like if you don't have an aggressive enough deck with Lando to close out the game, like you start destroying your own resources
You're gonna
while
fall,
your opponent's
yeah.
like 6-7 resources and you're struggling to stay at 4 or 5. That like you better be really aggressive.
Yeah, you like if you have to get so far ahead, and if they claw back, you're gonna probably be struggling.
Yeah. All right, we get green here. In this one, Boba and Hondo are the commons, and Jabba and Hunter are the rares. I would imagine that just the free bounty off Jabba can really turn on quite a bit of things in the set. Justin, you were looking at that today, right? Like all the things that like come in with bounty, like things that want bounty. I think Justin's busy. Well,
Yeah.
But also just like there's an insane number of keyworded units in the set to make Boba Fett good enough. So I don't know. I think everyone but Hunter is probably pretty decent. Although like Hunter's body on
His
7 is
body's
good.
really good. My kids were just asking if they could watch one episode of Bad Batch. So perfect timing.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
Hunter, I think, he's so unplayable in Premiere. So maybe it'd be nice if he's somehow playable in Limited. Like
You're pretty much
body's
only
pretty
playing him for
good.
his body, though, right?
yeah,
how
like you're
often are
not
you
gonna
get
have
to-
doubles.
Yeah.
You'd have to have so
Yeah.
many doubles to make that matter.
Yeah.
Although I wonder if like you could get to a situation with Hunter where you have like 7 of a card because it's limited, and there's like some like random like draft card that you just open 1,000 of, and you open 100, and like that's the pool. It'd be really interesting to see if that actually like was
Yeah.
a thing, of like a 2-drop or something like
Just
that.
like a
Just, no one
draw a
wanted.
million shocks.
You just like
Yeah, and
like a
just-
bargain bin, like one drop
like
of because
something,
it
and you
wa-
just
yeah.
have all of
That's
them, and
interesting,
because you
yeah.
have all of them, like that's definitely happened in Magic, where there's been like, oh, this card that like no one wants, but if you have like 9 of them, it's just like super broken.
That's
Um,
interesting.
And then like Hunter lets you do it because there's no deck limit.
Right.
I don't know.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, looking at this
It broke-
list, like I think
broke the format.
incremental value from Boba, good. I think Hondo being like a Tarkin light, I think is really good. Yeah, I think Jabba could be good depending on what you pair him with, because like ramping in limited seems pretty busted, and capture.
Yeah, all these guys come out on
Yeah.
6 or later too, which is a little problematic
Yeah.
in limited. The format can get a little more aggressive if you're
Yeah.
not able to answer things as easily.
Yeah,
And-
Hondo could probably keep up. I feel like maybe I'm crazy,
I don't know. I think you just pick Boba, take the anthem.
and then just move on.
Play-
Yeah,
Yeah,
draft
play the
the
upgrades.
4/4 ambush or the 2/4 ambush with raid. Draft the 1/5
Yeah.
with raid. Just play all these
Yeah.
guys that have like raid and ambush and stuff, and
Yeah, that's a good call.
buff
Yeah.
them.
Jam, Sentinel.
I like
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, I think that's good. And then of course at the pre-release we're going to be able to play with these guys. So is there a reason to, take these over the options at green and yellow? Like if we have Hondo and Jabba, I guess we'd probably have to be pretty low curve to want to consider Gideon. But if we don't really like Fennec or Lando that much,
You're definitely
playing Mando, right? Like just
Yeah.
a 4/7
Yeah.
for 6 that
Yeah.
exhausts guys with upgrades. Like he seems
Yeah.
like a. I would imagine that like half the field will be Mando
Yep.
at these pre-releases.
It'll be kind of like what was the big one was it Vader that a lot of people people played Luke too, but I feel like I saw a
both.
lot of Vader at my pre-release, and like I think it's gonna be the same on the other side with Mando. So many good upgrades. Yellow, as we saw, is insane, and yeah, you don't really care about the other yellow cutting hero leaders. I think he's gonna be nasty.
I do think Moff Gideon leads to some pretty insane draft decks when you start getting down that route where you're going the aggressive and the low cost. But again, like Mike was saying earlier, when you get sealed, you never know what you're going to get. So it's so hard to actually consider it in that format.
Yeah, and we should be getting some packs from FFG to do some pre-release videos before the pre-release comes out. So look for these guys to be making those videos over the next week. Hopefully we get those out to you ASAP as soon as the box gets here.
Yep.
I'll be on vacation.
checking
but
out
you guys
front
enjoy
every-
the packs. I hope you
Yeah,
pull.
baby.
I hope you
Okay.
pull a showcase. To be honest.
Oh,
Ooh.
that'd be sweet.
Follow us on YouTube. You can maybe check out some of the action.
Smash that like button.
Like, comment, subscribe. Did you know 50% of you are not subscribed right now? Hit
I'm
that
subscribed.
subscribe button.
There we go.
Ding the bell to be notified. When Han Solo drops 2 damage
Coming
unit.
to the stage.
you know that someone's been watching a lot of Pokemon YouTube streams.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
I got them
God.
queued up.
All right, so Justin, Maddie, and I talked about the leaders that dropped today, but we've been talking about the good new leaders when we do Good, Better, Broken. So if you haven't checked out our video from Friday where we grade all the leaders, we go into our teacher modes. Me and Justin are teachers. Maddie invoked his best, tried to invoke the spirit of the teachers that loved him in high school.
There weren't many.
And graded these out. But I don't know. First, Steve, do you have anything that like jumps out at you as looking at Han? We both.
I think he's going to be good. He's going to be real strong. I think just the aggression. I do find, kind of getting back to what you're talking about with the early leaders that dropped today, ramp definitely seems much more of a theme in this set.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think you see it with Han, you see it with Jabba. I think some like that ambush ship is going to go great in green, yellow Han, the other old Han.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like in general, the set is definitely geared more towards ramp and going to the mid to the late game, which I think will be an interesting counterpart to like when Green Sabine just ran over everything, or even
Mhm.
double yellow Boba, like where set one was very aggro focused. Set two and Han in particular and things along those lines are definitely geared more towards the ramp in the mid to the late game, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, what really unlocked Han for me is just like we worked so hard in set one to do things like ambush in our super laser tech to kill it so our opponent couldn't bounce it or steal it or something like that. And Han just lets us do that one ramp for free. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, it's on demand. It's not going to perpetually follow us without his action. And if we can only do it for units, but that's still a big portion of the ramp strategies is just getting that unit out that you need one turn earlier and having just like played against Wu last night where he's dropping home ones on 7 made it really really tough to keep up with that kind of ramp. So I think that Han is just I think he's just going to be a huge meta player for as long as he's legal and Premier constructed.
Yeah, there was a
Broken.
tournament I watched, I think Broken to potentially Broken,
Yeah.
that like it was one of the first tournaments, might be like the Philly 1K or something, where like basically it was two players and they just kept casting like 8 drops like over and over and over and over and over again. And I feel like that's going to be what Han does. Like he's going to get to a point where like he just draws 2 cards and like you can't discard against him because he's just gonna whatever he draws is gonna be like super gas. And like you see cards like Crate Dragon, Home One. There's that new ship that's like an ambush card. That Marauder card, Home One's gonna bring other cards back. Poe, Wrecker's a little bit counterintuitive to that, but Wrecker's just so strong. Like why wouldn't you play him? And it's like keep like half your deck as haymakers, and then like you play like 12 ramp spells, and your leader has the built-in ramp. So like and like he might even be a card where like you play him, you use his actions, and then you just use him to like kill a 3-drop or something, just because you're gonna like be continuing to cast these like
Yeah, you're just
gigantic
protecting your
spells.
life total so you can make other things happen.
Yeah,
Yep.
and like I think the fact that he can make your aspect penalty only 1 is disgusting. Like the amount of deck building possibilities as this game goes on and he's legal. Like you can super laser tech for 4. That's completely reasonable. Dies right away. You get it. That's like some people were playing that for 5 in the early.
Yeah, we've seen some
strategy.
whacker uses of super laser tech. That's what I was gonna say.
And that's just
You can-
one thing you could do. Like that's just one possibility to take advantage of that. And I think what we've seen in these ramp decks sometimes is that they get run over. But the fact that he can drop things early, and also he can come out, early and just deal with something and go back to doing what he does best,
Doing
I
what he
think is
does best.
incredible. Yeah.
You can play Maul, and Maul can kill his own Han. You can redirect the damage just like in the movies. Solo
Yeah, man,
sequel
like-
that never happened.
Just like that
Spoiler
final
alert.
scene of Solo, when everyone's like, "Wait, what is?
What?
When did this take place?"
Yeah.
I thought he was dead.
That broke my brain.
Worth
was
the
not up.
risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure most.
Yeah, I think he's
people weren't.
broken.
Yeah, same. I love him. I think he's really good.
Like he could, depending on what they put around, if they like kind of like the Han Sevens thing, like he could get banned. I could see it.
Yeah,
Inherent power.
he might be
He
too
could just
strong.
be too good. Yeah.
All right, other new leader today, Jabba the Hutt. His high exaltedness, 212. His action, he gives people bounty, and that bounty is you may play the next unit you play this phase costs less. 1 on his leader side, 2 on his unit side. So this guy is just giving free bounties. So he turns on all your bounty strategies, and when he deploys, he lets another one of your units capture any enemy non-leader unit, which seems absolutely busted. The thing I'm most excited for now is that I can finally build a deck with Dryden Voss, who I also think is busted.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to make that my Jabba flip turn.
I hope you break him because like my one fear with this card is like how action economy works and like
Yeah.
at playing, like I played Vader ramp at that local showcase and like I had to first action kill things or I would just have died. So that's I see the power level in the card, but I'm just afraid of like you never have initiative and like you're gonna really have to get good value out of this ramp ability.
Yeah, I ranked him, I think, really high when we recorded the leader video, and then I mapped it out. I actually just wrote out like what would happen, like opponent plays a unit, and like what needs to happen. You sort of always end up being on the back end because, like, even if you have ambush, then you're not playing the card for cheaper. So like that text never really feels like it's gonna kick in unless you've shielded guys. But if you've shielded guys and you're like down on actions, like they can lane dodge too. But it feels really challenging to actually like get a situation where you're able to say, okay, I'm putting a bounty on this unit, then they do something. Then I'm killing this unit with something else that's already in play, which now then unlocks the lower deploy. And that's like essentially what you need to do to sort of use him as a ramp. And that just seems like a real stretch.
Yeah, you need to
if it
be
goes down like that.
building a board and killing things with the board, or else you might as well not even be playing him for his ability.
You're building a board, but you're also like you have to do that essentially never having the initiative because of the bounty thing. And maybe there's a way to do it where you actually don't use his ability like the first couple turns, and you end up using like turn 3,
I think that's
and that goes like 3 to 5 with the erasure. But it's definitely tricky.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of like Boba, right, where you had this like big flip turn. You weren't always using the one resource, even though I think we got better at doing that as the set went on. But like when you did line up everything and you could make a deck that took advantage of that, I think that's where the power is. But I agree with Justin that might take a little too much finagling. But it sounds like Mike has some good ideas in the future, at least.
I just see there being some units that in some decks that are like there now. Like we got Pershing, people play the Mining Guild tie, people were going to play the Client, like cards that aren't necessarily destroying our board when we kill them. And there is opportunity in those matchups to like get ahead of the control games. But like, yeah, obviously against aggro, if you're not ready, like you're going to be on the back foot. But I think in those matchups, those are the ones where you're not really using the Jabba ability.
I think another thing that's going to be tough is like early on building this guy from like scratch versus like, okay, now Sabine is still around, Boba's still around, and they're like, oh, I got like, a very clear ad that I'm gonna include in my deck, and their decks are gonna be even better. Like you look at like a Sabine that now has Poe or Wrecker or what have you, or both. When you're like trying to figure out like how do I, and then you play against one of those decks, and it's a bloodbath because like, they have 5 on 4, and you're like, give that guy a bounty.
There's gonna be a lot of that, early growing pains with the deck list. I guess the other thing that I'm a little worried about with Jabba is like if we're playing Jabba to beat like some of the control decks where they have guys out there that we can easily bounty, like I don't know, I think Palp already does a really good job at that, so that's kind of what my brain is going towards. But I am excited to try him out and be proven wrong and see where it goes.
Excited for the showcase for sure.
Yeah, I think he's good, but I could see him being bad.
Yeah, showcase be fire.
I think like what Justin mentioned is, if he is going to be successful, you really got to think of him as, all right, what are the two turns, the key turns, like going from 3 to 5 or 4 to 6, and kind of building the deck and focusing on that to get the advantage. Because I think, like you guys were saying, you can't realistically ever be expecting to be getting the bounty every turn.
Right. Yeah, you got to make it count when you get it. All right, next one, Enterprising Lackeys. Quite literally broken. This is a unit that will never go away as long as it's played and defeated, because you may defeat a friendly resource and put it into play as a resource when he dies and smuggle him back. So this thing will live as long as you want it to live. Is it broken contextually within the meta? I don't know, but having a unit that never dies seems like it is the perfect sort of like mono green control unit. Like I could envision a list that only has 4 units, and it's 4 of these.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Like a Aetherling type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily how green usually plays, but like if you were gonna build a control deck and you just like didn't need guys until you needed guys, then this would be it.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably combos pretty well with Emperor, the guy who leader that sacks people. Like that, I think would potentially lead to something broken, because it just goes outside the normal like game actions or rules of the game.
You always have something to, even if it's a hefty cost, you always have something to sack, and they might not see it coming.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool.
that's interesting. Yeah, a guy that is always in there, and he's like statted well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
He's
think
I love
good
it.
was broken, like
Yeah,
potential for broken because he like loops. I do think he's got an annoying. There's an annoying ability of like the resources you can move them, and like people are gonna bring in that guy to like kill your resources, but you can actually like shuffle your resources.
You're gonna have to,
It's
yeah.
gonna be an interesting one of like where
Are
what kind
you
of
not
play
allowed to
goes.
look at your resources?
No,
You're
you
allowed to
can, but
are.
look
like
at them
you're gonna want to,
and shuffle them. You can reorder them. So
because
there's
people
a
have scanning officer, which is like
yeah.
insanely broken.
You're gonna want to
Oh,
hide who your
and-
where your
Yeah,
smuggle
yeah,
cards
yeah.
are.
So you're gonna kind of have to like shuffle it, but that's like weird because that's like sort of like, hey, is it this one? Is it this? It's like you're going to the carnival and the guy's got the little cups.
So
As
honestly, it's
opposed
gonna.
to-
We should probably do like an updated table mechanics, or like just talk about this at some point. But like your upkeep is probably gonna be like put your resource down, like look at your resources, like
And,
and
like,
like you have to
shuffle.
find a way to look at them and then shuffle them so your opponent doesn't know. Or every time that you need to figure out where your smugglers are, you have to like
Yeah,
look
and
and
I think
shuffle.
the best thing to do, and you're right, maybe I should do another mechanic, or someone should do a mechanics video, but like
We should just
the thing
discuss
to
it
do
further.
is like say like I'm going to smuggle enterprising lackeys, and then you find it, and then you pay the resource. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like know that it's there, say it, believe
Yeah.
in yourself that it's there, and don't
Yeah.
don't peek.
Yeah, but there's that insecurity that's always going to creep
Yeah,
up.
maybe
in the back.
maybe you are insecure,
I'm gonna
but
have
not
to
me.
look.
It's just gonna
Well, there's
it is
also,
gonna
like-
slow the game down a bit. I
Yeah.
feel
Right.
like.
You think about the bluff on smuggle now. Like you want to bluff that you have a blaster,
Yeah.
and you're like pay 3, take it back, do something else.
Ooh, bluffing.
Dude, this
Can't
is my
wait.
hot take. I actually
There you
think
go.
that Smuggle is going to be brutal for
Yeah.
the pace of the game.
Yeah, could be.
Because like when you get into contentious situations, and we saw it like watching some of those 1Ks live, like people tanking forever and then like drawing out that like draw or the double loss which they better get rid of. Like, man, Smuggle could really amp that up to 11.
Well, the only other thing I want to say about these guys is like 5 for 4 is pretty
Yeah,
good
right.
anyway.
Yeah,
Can't be bad.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's overstated.
And then
It's
the
great.
the other thing that I find really interesting is that he lets you defeat your own resources. So like if there is a recursion mechanic, which I mean you already have things like restock and bounty hunter crew, but
Yeah.
he defeats the resource that he goes in for. So like you
Yeah.
can actually pull things
Yeah.
out of your resource row, put it in your discard pile,
And, like restock it.
and
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
restock it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Restock, I think, will be the first card banned.
Yeah, and so like we've talked about this behind the scenes, and like I guess I mentioned it probably on the podcast, but like I have explored these like end game states and hiding your vigilances in your resource row and like your spark of rebellions and stuff, like in your restocks even like that. Like if there's a way to hide them in your resource row to get
Like
them
that.
back at the end game, like
Yeah,
that's
that's
the way
cool.
to do it. So like,
Yeah.
do you play enterprising lackeys?
For
you know,
6,
for
sure.
6, like in a green blue or something. I don't
Smuggle
know,
would be insane.
but
yeah.
like, yeah, the idea that you can actually get things out of your resource row and into your discard pile is another element to look at. So I think like people look at a card, they see, I don't know what they see, but they think
I mean,
things are bad. And
I
then
love that we
it's-
see a 5/5 for 4 in double green, and we're talking about restock. Like that's
Yeah.
just where our brains go. It's
Yeah.
just so insane.
I
Yeah, that
mean,
could be
I
the
will
first card
be-
banned. The fact that it gets itself back is
It's so
dumb.
dumb. Yeah,
I will be
designistic.
playing-
That doesn't make any sense.
the bean, so I can like use the bathroom and like go buy an apple. But you guys have fun with that.
I brought my,
Oh my
apples
God, I know.
already. All right, I don't remember who wanted to talk about this one, but Chaos of War, new burn spell.
Oh, I picked that one. I
Double
think.
red, deal damage to each player's base equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. So this is a burn card that burns you and your opponent for how many cards in your hand. If you're playing aggro, hopefully that number's really small, and if you're playing control, that number's really big. But we've also seen that control decks will continue to resource cards, so it might not always be hitting for 2 or 3, but obviously the potential is there to hit for things like 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, and I think the fact that I think there are times where we wanted to play for a cause for 5 index. Like I could see paying 5 for this card as a burn, plan out of the sideboard. But also I wanted to pair it with I think another slide, which is evacuation, and you can mop up their board and then.
Oh yeah,
burn
maybe I
them
put
and
these
keep
in the
doing
wrong
that.
order, but
That's okay.
the other,
That'd be kind of a fun combo.
yeah.
Bounce all their stuff and then.
And burn them.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Steve?
I was gonna say that'd be pretty expensive though. What was that, like
It'd be the next
9, I
turn.
think,
Yeah.
yeah.
11 resources?
The other thing. Shoot, what was I gonna say? I had something good. Dang, I don't remember. It was gonna be really good.
Well, okay, so I think I have an interesting line with this card
Yeah.
of like aggro versus control. Like, let's say that it costs 3 for you and not 5.
How dare you?
If you're playing against control, you could theoretically pass on turn 1, not play a unit, and unless they have like a card like Inferno 4, and you can just claim, and then it's an automatic 5, which is pretty
Right.
crazy if they don't have a play. So like just being able to dome for 5 right away is pretty nuts. And then obviously you're essentially passing your first 2 turns. But like if control is like, hey, we're going to like kill your units anyway, and they now have to think about dumping their hand, and all you're doing is just sort of sitting back with like pings. I mean, it's a little weird because they've got a top end with some life gain, but it is just, and then like your Sabine turn is when you actually like explode.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting concept of like just playing like burn, like counter burn essentially, and not necessarily like playing like a battlefield narrator in A-Wing, and then like dumping your hand on turn 4 after having already done the damage that never would have got through
Anyway.
initially. Like your reach sort of flips with your units.
Yeah, the pass thing is interesting because it like plays into the thing that the blue controlled, like the George decks, where he's like, oh, we're gonna not play anything on turn 1 so that we can always have a Childson with 4 counters or whatever, and like
Yeah.
that sort
Right.
of like counters that. And then this is the thing that I thought of is like I've never
there's
been
a card.
felt more vindicated about saying I am your father's bad. Like
It's not
draw. You know what? This is a
Oh,
tough
yeah.
decision, but I'm gonna let you draw 3. It's like the Uno
Yeah.
meme.
Oh, that's insane. I didn't even think about it because we
Yeah,
don't really
it's the
play it
Uno
that much.
thing. It's
It's like
Uno.
literally the
It's-
Uno meme.
Yeah.
Just call it, rename it I'm Your Daddy.
Well, and another thing I know, like paying 5 isn't like the sexiest thing for this, but there's a lot of those cheap cards. Like I'm thinking of the 1-drop ship 2/3. Like the bounties or your opponent draws a card. So like there are these interesting strategies where like you give them the benefit of the draw card, but it's actually going to bite them in the butt later.
Force
So
choke.
it's an interesting way to do it.
Well, someday
I
I'm
like
gonna
that.
figure out the mission briefing, make my opponents draw, Chaos of War to burn them, restock to burn them when they can't draw when they're out of cards, and just continually burn them with Chaos of War and mission briefing.
Yeah, I mean, there will be someone who thinks that this is like the restock target. I mean, the restock thing is like a thing, and people are gonna find what they want to use it.
Yeah, it's
What's the
potentially
best
this.
avenue. It's potentially this.
All right, here's Evacuate.
Mm.
Literally a
Yeah.
reprint of a Magic card from like beta or something.
Mhm.
Six
It's-
cost.
yeah.
Return each non-leader unit to its owner's hand. So obviously, Matt, you were thinking about doing this with the previous card. I've already forgotten the name of it. Chaos of War.
It would be like some kind of end game state against like okay, so just coming back to like we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back in time. We were trying to play Thrawn, right? Something like Thrawn. And the problem with Thrawn was you'd stall, and the payoff wasn't great, or it was like so hinged on Super Laser Blast. But now Evacuate lets you like gives you an earlier payoff for stalling them out in terms of just bouncing everything and then giving them this massive hand. Whether you play Evacuate with that strategy, which is kind of interesting, if you're playing against like a more of a mid-range deck where all of a sudden they have like a full grip because they can't play everything at once and you're able to burn them out, like that's super interesting. Or just Evacuate on its own, pairing in with cards like Outmaneuver with Thrawn, blue yellow control like we saw with Boba, but now there's like a reason that you're stalling them out, like there's a payoff, and it's Evacuate with Super Laser Blast. So I think we're going to see the rise of Thrawn in set 2 actually.
I got a question along those lines. What happens if you have one of your opponent's cards frozen in Carbonite and you play Evacuate?
Goes to
Wait, what-
their
And just go back to their
hand.
hand and your
Yeah,
thing
and
dies.
the
Their thing would
upgrade would
die.
fall off,
Mhm.
like in Magic.
Great, another card that's great
But
with that.
but like a card like Trader is the unit would go back to their hand if you had a Trader sub.
Right.
So they go to like the person who bought the card
Yeah.
at the store.
Oh shit! So my mom. Oh man.
Damn,
Donna.
Donna's got all these Where the hell?
She's just
Is
kidding, like
this
at dinner.
Not as
I
good
think-
everything.
is this
I
the
think,
yellow wrath? Like, because people say that, but is this a yellow wrath?
No, it's
No.
not a wrath, but I do
No.
think it's like a
It's a
bridge to a
people.
wrath. Interesting thing I think about it with boba is like you can wait to flip boba, which I think is a really neat idea.
I love the idea of waiting to flip leaders. Like, I think that's something
Yeah.
that's so unexplored.
But then you get the 3 resources back, and it's not like boba doesn't have any. So super laser blast. I think sometimes from something that happens frequently is like the opponent, you play it, like they already get to claim essentially, and then they get to, be the first to act. They can replay the units in their hand, but you're gonna have boba and then 3 mana
Yeah.
to play something else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, they claim, so you're going in with 3-drop and boba against whatever they ended up doing. And it also
Which is
puts
able
them in
to
weird
answer them.
spots.
That's
Yeah.
nasty.
So I think Boba Blue is going to really like this card. I don't think Boba, like the regular Bobas, are going to like it too much. However, you look at like a Boba Green deck that maybe like wants to sort of like tempo people out in a different way and wants to get to like your Vaders and stuff because you're like struggling to get there. I could see that being a card.
I could also see it being like crazy yellow boba mirror tech, where like
Yeah.
you're on the aggro plan and someone's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna reset the board and you're gonna have all these cards you can't play, and then I'm gonna chaos abhor you.
Yeah, I've no. Yeah, nice
7.
double me. I was gonna just to your point about like unexplored leaders coming out, like waiting to come out. I think that's just like a benefit of like more sets. Like we get to explore those things because the card pool's better. Like set 1 was like glorified deal decks or like bad block decks. Like it's one set block. Like you need your leader to get you through that like middle part of the game.
Right.
But now with like more cards like Frozen and Carbonite and Capture and Evacuate and this and that,
we're playing real
you're
cards.
able to kind of you're gonna start to see like those nuanced strategies come out. And I love that Boba's so good that it's like, oh, okay, you want to play this in your Thrawn deck? I'm just gonna play it in blue Boba and it can do things.
Exactly.
One more quick rule question: if one of your guys is captured by the opponent and you upheaval, what happens to the capture?
He goes
guy?
to the battlefield, so he would
Yeah,
not.
he gets to go and
But
play.
then you're gonna be up a card already, in theory.
Oh, if you've been captured.
Yeah, like if you're
it's a
playing
great
against-
answer.
It's good anti-capture. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
so is Super Laser Blast. Like if they're going to be capturing our cards
Yeah,
as control, it's going to
yeah.
lead in.
Removal.
You're going to not
Yeah.
want to be capturing against control too often.
Yeah.
Talk about a guy you want to capture. Toro Calican. Look at this
Yeah.
guy. 3 cost, 3/5. When you play a bounty hunter, if you deal damage to it, you ready this dude. Where did this guy come from? He's a random Mando character from a
He, like, has a
subplot in
random
season 1.
episode,
He has one
right?
episode. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a good episode. He steals Grogu.
And he was just like a dweeb, and now he's broken. I love it.
Yeah, I think this guy's broken, unfortunately. I mean, he's a unit, so there's like a level there, a unit that doesn't impact the board pre-removal.
Yeah, they could just kill him.
But, so he's not quite like, oh my god, this guy's gonna... I don't think this guy will get banned, and he does have the once-a-turn thing.
Yeah.
But he's going to be really annoying to deal with, and he's going to be really annoying for, like, people... All they need to do is just play a bounty hunter, and he just does 6 damage. So, like...
I think
I don't know why
Yeah.
he's the guy that does 6 damage,
Yeah, I know.
I
Compare
think
like
the real part is that he's just villain, so he
Yeah.
can go in
anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
any villain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Yep.
And I think he makes the 1-drop bounty hunter, the like neutral one that just like is a 1/2 that deals 2 damage when you control another bounty hunter.
Mhm.
Like combos perfectly with this thing. And then all of a sudden, like just for cheap, or like you play this in Boba, you get to untap 1, and play that guy, hit something for 2, and then ready this guy. Like you can really start to mess people up for very cheap and just a couple cards.
The-
It's not working
The
too hard.
only thing I'll say is that just the level that cards are scaling up in terms of their power level is like pretty drastic. So like, the 3/5 stats are very good. Like they're the Boba unit was one of the best ones, but like like having access to more removal and more things that kill him, and like you think about like a card like Poe or a card like a 5, like we just saw a 5/5 for 4 that can ECL and just kill this guy. Obviously, like you're playing good cards, but like it's not like you just can't get this guy off the board ever.
Yeah,
You know
he's
what I mean?
he's
Like,
easy to kill, but he's gonna be a lightning rod for whatever. You know what I mean? They're
exactly.
gonna
And
have
you
to
have to play your
burn.
next thing and your next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, like you, control decks are gonna take 6 and not really blink. It's not the
Yeah.
biggest deal in
Right.
the world, but like left unchecked, he can do a lot of damage.
He
And
can
like
ramp up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
he's doing something nobody else does. Like we thought the 3/5 stat line for a 3-drop was so insane in set 1, and now we've got like you know multiple
of-
guys with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think he's really good.
Really good.
All right, here's a contentious card. Daring Raid. Deal 2 damage to a unit or base for 1. I think this card's good.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I don't-
Shock.
It's I think it's overrated currently. I think it's clearly not bad, but I don't. My opinion is that there's not that many units it kills 1-for-1. Obviously, it can finish things off, but that's
Mhm.
not like a 1-for-1 situation. And like, okay, maybe you want to burn, but who's not moving the needle a ton that way?
Yeah, Shock
So,
wasn't
you
always
know-
constructed playable either. You know,
Right.
it was a great draft
But, like,
card.
and
And
you
when
think
Goblin
about-
Guide came around, obviously.
Right, like the whole concept of Lightning Bolt, Shock, all these cards, is you kill the first turn that the opponent does something. So then you get to essentially, we trade a card and the game hasn't started until the second turn.
Mhm.
That doesn't really happen with this card too much. Like unless you're playing against a lot of like Kylo's ties, and I do think that
The
it's gonna
3/2s are
impact
coming.
killing.
The
back,
3/2
I will
ships,
say.
the 3/2 ships are big. Like they could be very popular, but like 3/2 on the ground, not happening anymore. You know.
I mean, I'll tell you, like my current Sabine list has 0 X2s in it, like just wing leader. But like obviously wing
Yeah,
leader's a
yeah,
little
yeah,
different.
you
But
wanna
like
Bolt. Yeah.
I don't have any of like I looked at Ketsu, he was in, and now Ketsu's out because like 1 minute you're in, the next minute you're out. It's Fashion Week.
Yeah.
But like,
That's amazing.
like I think people have to build around this card, and then people are gonna say, wait, this doesn't actually like do all that much, and like it's a card, you have to use it and you have to spend it, and it's I don't think it's has a tremendous. I actually think like Cloud Rider is like maybe more of a lightning bolt than this card, even though this obviously kills the Cloud Rider.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good 3/2s, at least in the air. I think it's going to be one of those cards that's like, does it come in the sideboard? Do you run it in a 1-in-1 depending on what's in the meta? Definitely very limited playable, but it's like a good card, and in the right situation you want it. And yeah, sometimes you're not gonna need it.
Sorry, I got a little battery issue going on right now.
Yeah, you're good. Steve, is this a? Where are you picking this? Is this a high pick?
Oh, draft.
I think it's a fine card. Like, I think if it does see play, it'll probably more likely see play in a mono red burn, where you can use it to either like get that. It may be a rare situation, but you get that 1-for-1, and then your unit can get into the base, or you just use it to like get the last 2 points of damage.
Yeah, I
can think
I
of-
really look forward to trying to
game-
like chain this with Fighters for Freedom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I've had plenty of games where I've come like 1 or 2 HP short of winning in necessarily an aggro matchup, and then you can just play this to just dome them to the face.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, I do think it is like it's a totally different card in an actual burn deck.
Yep.
That plays that other card is like trying, playing 4 cause, and like you don't ping off of this, but you keep it because it's an extra. You're getting that +1 on it.
Yeah,
So,
the
like,
kind of
that
card that you
type of
might want to
thing-
play card draw in, like Mission
Exactly.
Briefing or whatever the new 2-cost one is. Like they discard, you draw.
Yeah, or like part of some weird like post board plan when you're just like not playing units and just burning, like something along those lines.
All right, so here's a cool one: Lurking TIE Phantom, 3-cost 2/2, raid 2, so it punches for 4 and it can't be
Yeah.
captured, damaged, or defeated by enemy card abilities. So that there are some
Can't be
things that get
shocked.
around this. Can't be shocked.
Can't be
it can
power to the dark side.
Can be make an opening.
Yep, it can be make an
Can be
opening
make an-
because it's not defeating. -2, -2ing for its full health doesn't count as defeating. Damage defeats. So something like the shock or open fire couldn't kill this. Power of the dark side doesn't kill this because you get to
doesn't kill it,
select
yep.
what you defeat, and you can select this, and it can't be defeated by
Ooh, I
that.
like
so
that.
it doesn't.
Yeah,
break-
different than magic.
yeah, it's
that.
different than
Yeah.
magic, right? But it's still, and it swings for 4. But like Justin mentioned earlier today, it just dies to a TIE fighter. So it's still pretty fragile in the wrong situation.
Yeah, I got really excited about it at first. I was like, you just play this card and like you beat the control decks because they can't beat it. But then you realize that the control decks play Inferno 4, which like just attacks right into it.
Yeah.
And then they can bring in like system patrol crafts, and they can even bring in their own version of this to like just trade. And like it's just too hard to like make this like maybe there's a shell that plays like blue, and then you're able to like get a field on it, but I just don't see it happening. Like, and I do think this game, like, control mirror in Magic, you'd bring in like a unit and you'd have like a card that they took out all their removal and sideboard. It just doesn't work the same way in this game, where like a single unit's gonna take you there.
Yeah, it's because in Magic
so-
you don't
You'd
have
hit
to
the
block.
distinct
You know what I
couple
mean?
times,
You just like
yeah.
you'd be like, okay, I'll take this damage, but it doesn't work like
Right.
that in this game. But
Yeah.
I do think if
Right.
there's a spot for it, if people can find a spot for it, like I could see like Yellow Tarkin really liking this.
Tarkin
Um,
for sure. Ways to get counters on
Yeah,
it.
anything that buffs it. It's still Imperial. It's still a ship that punches for 4. So
Yeah, the guard deck might not hate it. Like you suit it up and like snapshot, it becomes a 5 attack. Like it hits for 5, and then it's got 3 booty. Like I think the thing is like you got to test it, but in a lot of decks, it's still gonna die to the same things as what 7th Fleet Defender is going to be way worth it because, like, yeah, Make an Opening still kills both of them, but, like, 7th Fleet lives against so much other shit.
Yeah.
And then, like,
Yeah.
1 damage, you know what I mean? So I think when fighting for that spot, it's kind of tough. And I don't think you want to gum up your deck with a ton of 3-drop ships.
Threes,
from what
yeah,
I've
and
seen.
and if you want to like make this super powerful, it's still got like space stats. So like you're like, oh, I can like put a counter on it with the tie advantage to make, and then like the opponent played like a battlefield marine,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah,
like played a
their
metal
work-
ceremony, and they're working so much
Yeah,
easier,
space
and you have
stats,
nothing
yeah.
for that.
You
So,
need to do,
yeah.
like, the Imperial Air Gar Saxon. But, like, 3 is so chunky. Like,
yeah,
you
there's
can't
just so
play
many
2.
better things at 3.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
why,
just
like,
like
2's roll.
ECL killing this thing is just like a major
Yeah.
issue too.
Mhm.
Any ship.
All right, here's a crazy one.
Double red.
Bo-Katan,
Cool.
double red,
Card
2
is so
drop.
good.
Is our 3rd double red card today? I don't know, but maybe I'm just thinking about Crate Dragon. Oh no, he's only single red. Bo-Katan, double red, 3/3, Mandalorian Trooper. When defeated, each player with 15 or more damage on their base draw cards. She could potentially draw 2 when she dies.
That's insane.
What a top deck!
Yeah.
This is like, how many times do you brick drawing your 2-drop in aggro? That she's not a brick.
Yeah.
Amazing on 2, amazing on 5. Like drawing 2 if both players have 15, Sabine obviously ticks you down. Mono red Sabine has just been like going through the roof. I think this is one of the top 5 cards in the set. Like, just such a powerful card. Like any card that does amazing stuff on the first turn and the last turn of the game is just amazing.
Yeah,
and, like,
it's so rare too.
I'm
imagine
really
throw it-
interested in double red now.
Yeah, I mean, how
Heroic
could you
stack,
not be?
draw
Like,
3,
there's so many
with
insane
what?
double red things, and then like aggression's already good.
Yep.
You've already got
Mhm.
card draw in that deck. You've already got burn in that deck. Like, you're gonna be able to make mono red so efficient. I'm really excited for it.
And like ECL,
Oop, I didn't mean to.
Rebel Assault, and Battlefield Marine are like the 3 green cards that I really wanted. Now like here's the Battlefield Marine
Yep.
There you go.
with upside.
Mhm.
So
Now here's a question: Would you pay 4 for her in draft?
and draft.
Probably.
In Han,
Oh, Han, right? Because then she'd only be 3.
Yeah, definitely not.
Definitely, if you have enough Mandos,
Watch
it's like
the
interesting.
F3 one.
I mean, it's
Something to
really
think about.
interesting
Yeah.
to draw too late. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you could
I think I would play her.
easily do a double red deck with all the cards that got in the
Yeah,
set.
I just
That's
meant
right.
like in limited, is she worth playing on aspect? And I think I would give it a shot.
I think so.
Especially
Yeah.
like, I don't know, sometimes like if you get in, and this is more of a local thing and less like a high level draft thing, but like sometimes you get in these like 6-man drafts and like your playables at the end are
Yeah,
dicey.
it's a little rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, true.
All right. I flashed him earlier, but here's Supreme Leader Snoke. 6/6 for 8. First order force official. And each enemy non-leader unit gets -2/-2. Our first like static I don't remember what the effect is called in Magic, but basically like debuff.
Yeah,
Anthem.
I think he's really good. I just because he's tied to a unit is what like keeps me back from saying broken. Like I'm a big blue villain guy, and I think Snoke is a really good end game. Don't get me wrong, but like I can't see like wanting to play like 3 Snoke over like 3 Avengers and like stuff like that. Like I still think Avengers is an insane finisher, but I do like Snoke as like a 1-1 split or in some kind of like force deck.
Yeah, not as
I just
powerful
don't
as
think he's going to
Avenger.
end the game as quick.
Not as
I think-
powerful as Avenger, but very good. And I
Very
think more
good.
surprisingly, like, locks out some games that Avenger can't lock out.
Right, like
Correct.
when they're wild.
100%.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
they've got a
Yeah.
lot of
that's
guys
what I
out.
was gonna say.
Even like mid range, he's going to save you a ton of health.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. I
like,
think
yeah.
anytime they have more than a couple units, you're gonna have wanted this guy over the Avenger because he's gonna actually let you win the race, even if they don't go after him. In
I
a
guess
lot of
my
situations.
point is like I want him when I have maybe like a leader or something else I can feel good about
Like
finishing
Kira?
the game for me.
Oh yeah. Well, I was thinking like Kira's ability, but yeah, I agree.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean-
no, with Kira's ability, flipping and then doing that and like delaying the flip as we talked about could lead to an insane turn. I guess
With
like
Gideon Hask out and then just getting like 5 tokens, just
Yeah.
distributed, just
you just got to
sprinkled.
make sure your deck can finish
salt
them
thing.
off. So like maybe
think-
you don't play Avenger and you play this, but you need some gas beyond
Yeah, I
this.
think somewhere along those lines, decks are gonna start having a combination of like 2 Avenger, 1 Snoke, or 2
Yeah.
Snoke, 1 Avenger.
Yeah.
Or if nothing else, he's
Maybe
the
even more.
sideboard alternative to Avenger in the right situation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the right
I kind of like
situation. That's a
that
good
is
call.
where I'm leaning with it.
I think he's definitely going to be a legendary that sees a lot of play.
Oh yeah, he's
Not
in
one
the
that you're-
60. It's like Steve said, which didn't denomination, but I think he's really powerful.
All right, is that it for cards? That's it for cards. We got some Patreon questions. We're up to 811. We stalled out for a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden, the other day, we just started cranking. I don't know if it was the coaching announcement, but we've gotten like 25 new subs or 20-ish new subs in the last 3 days.
Great. Welcome.
Yeah, this is a sweet big
could
hit. I
also
think people are
be-
excited for set 2.
Yeah, it could just be that.
Yeah.
So here's one that I thought you might like, Steve. How do you apply the principles of leveled thinking to draft when you don't know what your opponent has when a set is brand new? So like, how actively on a new set are you trying to play around things versus just like jamming out the best situation for you?
Probably not so much playing around things. Like obviously when you in some of the drafts, like you play things come up, but like assuming you're looking at it in a vacuum, I think more of where you can apply that. And I was actually thinking about this the other day when I was talking about potentially getting some team drafts when we're in Gen Con is knowing what you're passing to the person to your left should set you up to receive what you want for pack 2 because you switch the directions. So I think there is some level of thinking there in terms of what you pass, and especially in like a team draft scenario where it's like, all right, these are the top 3 cards in this pack. If I'm going to take the blue one, knowing that the person on my left might take a card that's a little bit more powerful, but you're going to set your teammate up with the card you want for their draft, their color. And then knowing what the 2 people to your left are more than likely drafting, you're going to get a lot more information and be able to get the cards you want for pack 2.
Yeah, much easier to do in draft than like your pre-release, right? Because you get to see the cards, and like Steve said, it's like, okay, I know that these are 3 best cards. I take one. He's gonna take, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and I think like just pay attention to what you're passing in draft. Like if you know you passed a bunch of waylays or a bunch of shocks, like know that they're out there. People are going to have them. People are probably going to play them. So I think it makes it easier in draft. In sealed at a pre-release, just listen to what everyone's saying because everyone loves to talk about what's in their pool.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, they'll show you that rare they pulled.
All right, so this one's pretty general, but what's a good strategy for deck building in Unlimited? That's like very, very vague, but what do you focus on for a new deck? Like what's driving you to build a new deck?
I think the pillars of the meta, like when I build a deck, I think what it can be. Can it be aggressive enough to sort of not have to deal with like these restock type games? Can I get there like in a similar way that like Sabine is able to get there pretty frequently? So that was like my approach with Kylo. Or can you get some really big tempo advantage same way Boba gets in a similar way? So like I looked at some CAD lists or hero Bobas. Like, is there a way to sort of get ahead in the mid range war without losing to the control war? So I definitely have the meta in mind, and I don't want to lose to. I want to have advantages, or at least understand where I am against the top decks, and then show up to a tournament and you lose to Chewie, you lose to Chewie. But like it's more about like wanting to beat the decks that I'm expecting to play and know how to play against them, like know what I want to do. And sometimes it doesn't always equate to a win, but I know like how I'm going to win, and I want to try to get that plan going through my deck building.
What about you, Mikey?
For me, it's like when I find something that I think has a different angle on the meta, so I can kind of step outside those pillars and not be like the typical aggro deck or control deck or mid range deck, and I can do something slightly different that people aren't ready for. Is the way that's what leads me to build a new deck where I'm like, okay, let me go into the lab, let me start to construct this, let me start to explore the lines. A lot of my testing is like testing against you guys, figuring out what's good, working on that list, and making it as good as I think we can make it. But when I'm picking up a new deck, I want to attack in a different way.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up, and I talk about this a little bit in my like live deck building. I think the 2 live deck building videos I've done, but like first is like inherent power of like just the ability that the leader has pre-flip, and like is it a triggered ability that you don't have to do anything and it just happens? That to me is like the top tier that I'm looking at exploiting, because it's you get to keep initiative, you're getting added value. Like same with static, those anthems like a Gar or a Krennic, like those just happen, those are free, things like that. And if I have to play a premium, it like tap action, it better be worth it, and then pay in action, it's like really got to be that's like pretty hard to do, I feel like. And then from there, like deploy costs and all that stuff. But
so economy,
I don't even
leader
think of
based, like economical stuff.
Exactly. Like, I don't even think of the meta yet. I just think of like, how can I exploit the action economy of the game, and let's build it, and then let's fire it at all the other stuff. And that's probably why I'm on Mando so much when probably just mid. It just feels like something's there.
What do you got, Steve?
Yeah, I think along the lines of where you talked about is where I kind of always tend to go in my deck building. I also like trying to be a little bit more creative and trying to play my own little brews or something I came up with as opposed to everyone else. So I definitely think trying, like what you said about attacking from a different angle, and like for me, the creativity of just doing something differently.
Yeah, I love that too. Professor Numpty, what do you think the chase cards are that we've seen so far to set 2? What do you expect them to be valued at? Since the beginning, Silencer and Poe come to mind. I guess, like, is there any legendary that you think is going to be... let me, like, just in the essence of, like, keeping this short, what do you think the most expensive legendary for set 2 is going to be?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll go Snoke.
I like Poe. I don't think he'll be... Maul is Maul legendary? Or is he so rare? He's so good.
I think Darksaber will be up there.
Yeah, Darksaber's really good. Poe's really good. I'm gonna be honest, like I'm definitely more excited about the uncommons and stuff than the legendaries. And,
for sure. But if we're talking just like straight up price stuff, you've done price videos. We did the price contest. I'm looking at the list now.
Yeah, I'm trying to look.
I think Poe will be in the Boba range, the Boba unit range, the Luke unit range. Maybe because he's the chase of this setup. I don't know if that makes him higher or lower. Probably makes him higher.
How's this? Do you think Kylo and Ren will be like hugely sought after?
Oh, Kylo and Rey.
Sorry. Yeah, Rey.
No. I think my pick is Kylo's Silencer. Would probably be
most expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Poe. I'm gonna be on Team Justin.
Kill it with a shock.
You could just.
What are we doing? What are we doing here?
That's my guess. That's my guess. Okay, so this is a long one. It's actually much longer from Kodiak Duck, but I cut it down. From personal experience from other games, purposeful practice is one of the best ways to learn. What are you trying to learn? What's your goal? And what are the things you want to do to get better at?
Good question.
Yeah, I thought we could each say one thing that, like, when we're playing, what's the thing we're trying to improve upon?
So for me, I'll just start. So kind of tying it to the question before the last one. When you build a deck, and I think we've all done this, where you build it and it's circling your mind. You got the list written out, and now with tech, you can put it on a computer screen, and then you build it into that first time you play it, and then usually one of two things happens. Like, oh wow, what I thought was going to happen didn't work, and it's just very bad. Or like, this isn't obviously its first track, but like there's something here. So you're trying to tap into one of those two channels. And oftentimes it's the former, where like the idea doesn't work the same way into what you're trying. And so for that reason, I actually like to oftentimes play into some of the more difficult matchups first to kind of get it out of get it out of my system. Like, can it beat an aggro deck? Like, it's too slow. Can it beat Sabine? So let's just play it. Let's find out. The other night we were playing Kylo, and we were recognizing that it has a weakness against like blue villain, like the green blue villain decks, and we played and it didn't perform well. So it's like, oh boy, like that we were right about it. So I think that's sort of like embracing the sort of like a stress test, putting a stress test on the deck.
Yeah, I like all that, especially like when you think about it from like where your deck originates from and what the next steps are. When I play most of my games, I'm trying to just get better at my sequencing and my mechanics and seeing the table a little bit better and not going through the motions. It's why I haven't been using any quick action iteration gaming for Unlimited lately. I've been trying to step back and just like play a few games, actually be thoughtful about my experiences in those games, and try and play better. Just trying to eliminate the leaks. I guess that's the best way to put what my goal is. Like, just stop the leaks on my gameplay when I'm playing. It's like that's how I try and spend my time because I get to play so little now.
Yeah, honestly, like the biggest thing I'm having trouble with right now is learning to draw and leave my resource before I untap.
Yeah, it's a big
It's just
one.
like trying to like overcome years and years of.
You'll get there.
Keep going to those drafts. We'll get it ingrained in you.
I believe in you. All right, Maddie, take us home. What's your
Yeah,
thing?
so it's kind of similar to you, Mike, and like I agree. Like right now in our process, it's definitely more of like a Justin thing. But like when I think of what I'm always trying to improve, especially when it comes to the big tournaments, is like having that like cadence that's going to keep you in the game the entire time. So like I'm a big golfer, and like one thing is the pre-shot routine, and it's like club selection, visualizing the shot, finding a feel, and then executing the shot. Like you need to find a way, or like I need to find a way, and I think it's like a good thing for everyone, is like finding a way to bring some sort of cadence into your game that's going to snap you back into like go mode and make the right decisions. So that's me, like trying to not go into autopilot, like catching myself when my mind wanders, like stuff like that. So creating this cadence that's gonna to get the most out of my brain power when I play. So I'm working on.
Yeah, I love all that. I love getting those habits in. Like I always play a practice game every time I go to a tournament just to warm up. I shuffle the same way. For a lot of big events, I use headphones to sort of like clear my mind and like stop talking to people. Just like a little bit before the round starts, like shuffling with the music on, really clearing my mind has always been really helpful. So like, yeah, anything that gets you into the right experience, I think the right headspace is great. Cool. Well, that's all we got.
Yeah.
That's everything. We what a very cool 70-minute podcast that we just did.
Right.
Perfect amount of time. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with the full that'll be in the middle of pre-release weekend. So
Stay tuned for our pools.
I'll have done one. Yep. Keep an eye out on this channel for pre-release content. I'm dipping out to Spain tomorrow, so I'll be gone for 9 days.
Have a fun trip, Mikey.
Have fun.
Thanks, guys.
And like one fun thing about pre-release season, and I know it's like
Good luck in the tournament over there.
Oh shoot.
oh yeah,
The Nice Open.
yeah, where you win paella. No, but one thing I was gonna say, and like it is pumping our Patreon a little bit, but like pre-release season is so fun. Like we see everyone's pools when they get their product. We have like people crack setups, like streams, and we crack boxes in the stream. Like I cannot wait
I will
for
be
that.
opening
Like I'm gonna
a
be
box.
sipping a glass of wine and watching people pull their rares. Like oh my god, it's gonna be so much fun.
If you're on the Patreon already, you will be getting an alert. I don't care where you live in the world. In the stream, box opening happening right now.
Let's go.
Your phone will get pinged.
Yeah, because we got like a little bit of it. Like I don't think we had completely like been as popular as we were at the start. So it was very small, and like now it's gonna just go to 11. It's gonna be like a freaking 2-week long pre-release party.
Yeah, it's gonna be
It'd
great.
be great.
Yeah.
All right, boys.
But,
We out.
All right. Good pod.
Later.